Today we're going to be doing some flat sketching. I'll be showing you how to sketch a basic t-shirt. You'll want to start with a dress form template. Be sure to put it on a separate layer from the layer on which you'll be drawing, and then lock that layer. Now we'll start with the pen tool. You'll just want to add some strategic points: the center of the neck, the neckline, where the shoulder seam will be, the sleeve opening, the armpit, and right there about where you'd like the hem to be. Now we'll take the Convert Anchor tool, which is Shift-C, and round out some of these corners. You don't want to have many sharp corners unless it's the very edge that would actually be a corner. You'll notice I'm not exactly following the line of the body, and that's because it would be a little bit too rounded and it wouldn't then look flat. But I'm just using the Convert Anchor tool here. I'm adding a point and the White Anchor tool to bring that down. And then I'm just shaping this so that it looks a little bit more natural. Once we're finished shaping this and we're satisfied with the shape, we'll then copy and reflect it to the other side. First, however, we'll want to check the shape without the form underneath it. I thought it was a little bit too curved on the side to be a basic T, so I adjusted the shape. Now I'll copy it and reflect it and bring it over. I'm using the Smart Guides to make sure that it's pretty much centered. Now I'll use the white arrow and then Command J, Command Alt J to join the points at the center. Now we have the outline of the t-shirt. I want to move the shoulders in a little bit, so I'll just select them with the white arrow tool and just nudge them over a couple of spaces. Now I'm bringing back the template and I'm going to draw a neckline. I have the Smart Guides on here just to make drawing the points and centering the shape a little bit easier. Now I'm dragging the center point down with the white arrow tool and using the Convert Anchor tool to round it out. While I'm at it, I'm going to remove an extra point from the hemline just so that it's simpler when I go to add the stitching. The next thing I'll do is add some armholes. You'll want to make sure that when you're adding armholes, you use the least amount of points possible, but also you want to make sure that the armhole isn't too curved. An armhole that is too curved on a t-shirt makes it look unrealistic. Once you've gotten the right shape, you'll just want to copy and reflect and drag it over to the other side. Now I'm going to make sure that the outline of the t-shirt and the armhole are different stroke weight. It's important to differentiate between exterior and interior lines regarding stroke weight. Now we'll make an interior line for the neckline. We're going to go to Path, Offset Path, and then we'll choose to preview. This one's a little bit too big, so we'll reduce the amount that the path is being outlined. That looks about right. Now we will cut the line so that it fits inside of the t-shirt. And we'll do this using the Command C tool. Sometimes it's hard to do this while zoomed out, so you might want to zoom in order to get the accuracy that you'd like. We've deleted the excess, and now I'm joining the points of the actual neckline and the interior neckline so that I can make one shape out of them. Once the shape is joined, I will then bring up the body of the t-shirt and use the Shift M tool to create the perfect shape for the neckband. Now I'm clicking Shift M and then Alt and dragging it across the excess to remove it. Now I'm changing the stroke weight of the interior neckband. Next, I'll be adding the ribbing. It's important to use very few points when adding ribbing. It's also important not to have curved ends. We'll click on the dashed line option in the stroke palette, and then we'll experiment a little bit in order to find the sort of ribbing we'd like. You'll want to make sure that the edges of your stroke are not rounded and that your stroke weight is larger than the neckband shape you have created. Once you're satisfied with the size and the width of your rib, you'll need to make a clipping mask. You'll do this by selecting the neckband shape you created earlier. Select it with the black arrow tool, and then on your keyboard click Command C and then Command F. This will bring it to the front. Then you will select only the front neckband and the new rib you have created. Then right-click and select Create a Clipping Mask. Now you have a ribbed neckline. Next, we're going to create some details for the back neck. Select the white arrow tool and then click on the point at the center of the back neckband. Once you've selected this, you'll click Command C and Command F. Then you'll want to get the black arrow tool and drag this new line that you've created down to the point at which it makes sense for the neckband in the back of the shirt to rest. With the black arrow tool, you'll then select this line again, hold down the Alt key and Shift, and drag it back up to the back neckline. From here, you'll select both of your new lines, as well as the neckband line for the front neckline. Holding down both the Alt and the Shift key, you'll drag the front and back necklines up above the shirt. Next, select just the copied front neckline, right-click on it, and release the clipping mask. Then delete the rib. Now make sure that you've created a solid and connected shape out of your back neckband. I had a little trouble doing this here. It's also important to make sure that your front neckline is showing a stroke. You'll see here that I'm trying to use the Shift M tool to create a separate shape. However, I didn't correctly close the back neckline, so it's not working. To remedy this problem, I just need to drag the back neckline up, use the white arrow tool and Command J, Command Alt J on all of the corners, and make sure that it's a complete shape. Now the Shift M tool will work. I've created two back neckline shapes because I'll need one for the neckband and one for the color and shading of the actual t-shirt body. Once I've created the shape that I'd like using the Shift M tool, I can delete the other parts by highlighting them with the black arrow tool or the white arrow tool. This half moon shape that I've created for the back neck will be used as shading. When creating shading, make sure that you always use registration instead of black. It's a truer, blacker black than the black in the color palette. Reducing the opacity creates a nice shaded effect. Now we'll add the rib to the back neckband in much the same way we did in the front. The only difference is that this time we'll use the eyedropper tool to just copy the same dashed line we used in the front neckband. This makes sure there is consistency and continuity in all of the things that will actually be the same on a real t-shirt. Again, we'll Command-C, Command-F, and select the rib and the shape to make a clipping mask. Now we'll drag it down so that it fits nicely in its spot. Next, we'll make the back neck binding. Using the scissors tool, we're just trimming the line. Now we'll drag it down to create the lines of the back neck binding. We want to make sure the line width is not the same as the main body. Here you'll need 2 of the same size line as well as 2 interior lines for stitching. I like to make sure that the edges of my stroke for stitches are rounded both on the ends and on the corners. You can achieve this using the options in the stroke palette in the center. You need a stitch line both at the top and at the bottom of the back neck binding. Here I've created my binding and it's a little bit wider than I'd like, so I'm just going to nudge it up a little bit and make sure that it seems to be in proportion correct to the rest of the shirt. Once I'm happy, I'll use the scissor tool to trim these lines so that they're the correct size to fit underneath the front neckband. Next, I'm going to create a brush so that I can add some drag lines around the sleeve area. To do this, I'll first create a standard non-dash size 1 point line. This will be for reference. Next, I'll put a point on the left, one on the right, and then connect it again to the one on the left. Then I'll click on the Convert Anchor tool, Shift-C, and holding down Shift, I'll make this into a very skinny oval. I'll remove the stroke but add a fill, and then try to squash it down so that it's roughly the same size as the size 1 point stroke. Next, I'll drag this shape into the brush palette. Here I'll choose the Art Brush option, and then in the next dialog box, I'll choose the Hue Shift option from the Method box. This enables the brush to change colors when you change the stroke color. Next, I'll just delete these 2 items from the page so that they won't distract us. Next, using the white arrow tool, I'm going to create some stitch lines at the sleeve for its hem. I'll click on the line at the bottom of the sleeve, Command-C and then Command-F, and then just nudge the line up using the arrows on my keyboard. Next, I'll use the eyedropper to get the same stitch line and size as I used in the back neck binding. Then, using the Alt and the Shift keys and holding them down, I'll drag the stitch line up so that we get a nice, even double needle top stitch. Next, I'll select both of these stitch lines, right-click, transform, reflect, and make sure I've clicked Copy. Next, holding down the Shift key, I'll drag it over so that it's the same on the sleeve on the other side. Now we'll use that brush we created earlier to create some drag lines around the sleeve area. I'm going to just draw a simple curved shape here, which you can do using the pen tool or, as you'll see later, also using the brush tool. If you use the pen tool, you'll create the line first and select the brush later. If you use the brush tool, the brush stroke will automatically appear. Both have their advantages. Next, we're going to add a pocket to the shirt. Using the square tool, we'll draw a square. Then, using the pen tool, I'll add a point to the center bottom of that square. Next, using the white arrow tool, I'll grab that point and drag it straight down by holding down the Shift key. This will create a nice pocket shape. Then I'll click on the 2 points of the top of the square and drag them down to make a better shaped pocket. Now we'll click on the top line with the white arrow, Command C, Command F, and then nudge this line down. With the eyedropper, I'll grab the stitch line. Here's the front hem of your pocket. Now I'll do the same with the sides as well as the bottom of the pocket. Every time using the eyedropper tool in order to get the same stitch line that's been used all over the shirt. This creates a very nice and neat pocket. Once we're finished creating the pocket and adding the stitches, we'll want to choose the black arrow tool, select the entire pocket, and then click Command G in order to group the whole piece. This will make it easier to move, resize, and recolor this one part of the shirt. Now, you may want to reposition your pocket or resize it. Just do whatever you think looks the best. There are standard rules for sizes of pockets, but generally a smaller pocket is for ladies' apparel, while a larger pocket is for men's apparel. Of course, very small and very large pockets are for making statements. Next, we're going to create the bottom hemline of the shirt. Using the white arrow tool, we'll click on the center anchor point of the bottom line of the shirt. This will ensure that we select only the bottom hemline and nothing else. However, if you click on only a line segment and not this anchor point, you'll only get that one segment. So click on the anchor point, then press Command C and Command F, then switch back to the black arrow and nudge this line up as far as you'd like the hemline to go. Once you've positioned the hemline the way that you'd like it to be, then, like we've done on the rest of the stitching on the shirt, you can just use the eyedropper tool in order to grab the same stitching as we've had throughout the rest of the garment. Now that your stitch line is ready to go, you can switch back to the black arrow tool, select this stitch line, hold down Alt and Shift, and drag this line up so that it is where you think an appropriate double needle top stitch line would be. Now that your shirt is hemmed, you'll want to make sure that the main body is filled. For your basic sketch, you just need to fill it with white. Once your sketch is filled, select the entire image and then press Command G to group. This will ensure that moving your sketch around the page when creating a line sheet will be simple and you won't lose any pieces. Here you'll notice I'm missing the rib at the back neckline. That's because I froze it using Command 2 at one point. Here I'm moving the sketch to figure out what went wrong. Realizing that I used Command 2 to freeze it, I now use Command Alt 2 and then Command and the right bracket to bring it forward. Now I'll group the entire shirt and drag it to the top left-hand corner. Now let's create a second colorway. Using the black arrow tool, click on the shirt and then hold down Alt and Shift and drag it to the side. This creates a second shirt. Use the magic wand tool to select all similar colors. However, if you'd like to recolor just one of the shirts, double-click on the one you'd like to recolor, and then you can recolor it in isolation mode. You can only do this with items that are grouped. Click on the swatch in the left-hand panel if you'd like to adjust the color so that it's something a little bit different. You can click on each one of the little buttons on the side to adjust different parts of the color. Now we'll exit isolation mode by double-clicking on the artboard outside of the shirt. Next, we're going to create a color blocked option. Again, we'll click on the shirt and hold down Alt and Shift and drag it to the side. Now, we'll enter isolation mode by double-clicking on the body of the shirt with the black arrow tool. Next, with the white arrow tool, we'll click on the grouped item, that is the pocket. We only want to click on the body of the pocket, however. Now, we'll fill it with the same color as the body of the shirt, but then adjust the stroke weight so that it is not as heavy as the outline of the shirt. Double-click on the swatch palette to change the color, or you can choose something from the other palette. Now we've recolored the pocket. We'll want to create separate items for the sleeves of the shirt. We'll do so by clicking on the main body of the shirt as well as the seam at the sleeve. Holding down Alt and Shift will drag it to the side. Now, we will create a separate shape using the pen tool and clicking on the anchor points of the seam of the sleeve. This way, we can use the Shift-M shape building tool to easily create a separate shape. Make sure that the new shape you're creating is completely closed, but also does not encompass more of the actual body of the shirt than you'd like. Now select both the main body of the shirt and your new shape. Using Shift-M and Alt, remove the parts that you don't want, and click on the parts that you do without the Alt key selected. Now delete the excess, and if you so choose, you can use the eyedropper tool and make the sleeve and the pocket the same color. Now click on the sleeve and holding down the Shift key, drag it back into the main body. It may come to the front, so using Command Shift and the left bracket, you can send it all the way to the back, and Command right bracket, you can bring it forward. If it's not lining up correctly, you can click on the sleeve and the Shift key, drag it to the side, then select the main armhole seam and click on the Transform button at the top of your window, and then you can make sure that they're aligned by clicking on this button here. Now it's perfectly flush and fits wonderfully. To make the second sleeve, right-click on the first one, select Transform, then Reflect, and then Copy. Hold down the Shift key and drag over. If you'd like to align the sleeve exactly, you can click on the sleeve and the main body, choose Transform again and then the proper Align key. Now you have two sleeves that are a different color from the main body. You'll see later how useful this can be when it comes to stripes and patterns. Next, I need to fix a little problem that I made with the sketch to begin with. I'll do this by ungrouping the entire shirt twice, since I had grouped it twice because we lost the ribbing in the back neck. Then I'll select the entire shirt again and regroup it so that all components are included in just one group. This is an excellent thing to do, especially if other people will be using your flats. It cuts down on any confusion. Now I'm going to recolor the neck rib, but first I need to use Command 2 in order to freeze the shading that I made at the back neck. Using the white arrow tool, I'll select the clipping mask of the rib. I can recolor the clipping mask with any color I'd like. However, it is not currently filled with a color, so once we have filled it, we'll need to add a stroke. I'm going to use an orange color as a base, but then click on the swatch in order to make it a little bit more of a tannish brown color. Of course, you can use any color you'd like. Now that we've done this, you can see that there is no stroke around the clipping mask, so we're going to add the 0.5 stroke that was there to begin with. Next, we'll recolor the front neckline. I found that it's difficult to use the eyedropper on a color you've created inside of a clipping mask, so we'll go into the swatches palette and click Add All Used Colors, and it will add this color to our swatch palette. Now we can just right-click on the edge of the clipping mask, fill it with a color, and add a stroke like we did at the back neckline. Perfect. Now the next thing we'll want to do is to color the back neck binding. To do this, we'll need to make a shape because we didn't make it a closed shape before. In order to do this, we'll just need to select both of the lines and, using the pen tool, add anchor points. This can sometimes prove a little bit difficult, so you might want to click on the stitch lines inside of the back neck binding and freeze them using Command 2. Just make sure that you unfreeze them again when you're finished. You can see here that I'm having a little bit of trouble, so I end up drawing a line not directly to the point, and then using the white arrow tool and selecting both endpoints and then clicking Command J in order to join them. Once I've created the shape, I can recolor it by clicking on the color that I'd like. I'm going to make this the same color as the sleeves. The next thing I need to do is make sure that the line weight is correct, and then I'll round the edges and corners just to make sure nothing shows on the front. Next, I need to make sure that the shading at the back neck is visible, so I'll click on the shading half moon, make sure it's positioned correctly, and then I'll go in the transparency window and increase the opacity. Now we have a color blocked option of the same t-shirt. Next, we'll click on this body, hold down the Alt key, and make another copy. We'll be making a striped version of this t-shirt. To make a stripe, you'll want to make a rectangle with the Rectangle tool. Choose a color from your palette, and then another color to make a two-color stripe. You can add as many colors as you'd like to a stripe. To make sure that the edges are flush, you can use the smart guides, or if those aren't working, you can copy and paste the coordinates of the top and bottom of the squares using the Transform toolbar. Once the stripe looks the way you'd like it to look, you simply drag it into the swatch palette, and then select the part of the garment you'd like to make striped. If the scale of the stripe is not to your liking, you can change it using the Scale tool in the left tool palette. Click on the Scale tool, and then choose the options you'd like. If you only want to scale the print, make sure that only the Transform Patterns box is checked. Before you uncheck any of the boxes, make sure you uncheck Preview first. Select everything that you'd like to change the scale, click Preview. You can experiment with different sizes by typing different percentages in the box. I have found that clicking and unclicking the Preview button each time makes this option work better. Once you're satisfied, click OK. Now let's fill the sleeves with stripes. Select each sleeve and use the eyedropper tool to fill with the same scale stripe as you've used in the body. Make sure to readjust the stroke weight so that it is the same as before. Once you've adjusted the stroke weight, you'll want to rotate the stripes in the sleeve so that they look more realistic. To do this, click on the sleeve with the white arrow tool. Then choose the Rotate tool. In order to rotate only the print and not the whole sleeve, click on the toggle key on your keyboard. On a Mac computer, this is just above the Tab key. Reposition the stripes so that they follow the angle of the hemline of the sleeve. Then, using the white arrow tool and the arrows on your keyboard, nudge the stripes so that they match the stripes at the body. Do the same thing to the left sleeve, but make sure the angle follows the hem of the left sleeve and not that of the right sleeve. Now your sleeves look more realistic. Next, we'll recolor the pocket. We won't make it striped, because all we'd need to do would be to eyedropper the body and change the stroke to do that. So we'll make it a pop color. On printed fabrics, you'll want to change the back neck half moon to white instead of registration. This shows that the exterior of the shirt is printed while the interior is not. If the stripe is yarn dyed, however, you can leave the half moon as registration. Just because the interior of the shirt is lighter than the exterior doesn't mean there shouldn't be a shadow at the back neck. You can add a more organic looking shadow by using the pencil tool. The great thing about the pencil tool is that as long as the shape you've created is selected, you can reshape it by redrawing the lines. This takes a little bit of practice, but it's very cool once you figure it out. Here I'm drawing a rough shape just to show that there is a little bit of difference between the front and the back. I'm filling it with registration and then finishing by changing the transparency. Now it looks like a shadow. The next thing we're going to do is make a floral print and make a floral printed t-shirt. First we'll make the floral element of the print. You may do this any way you like, but I'll show you a quick version right here. With the pen tool, you'll make a shape by clicking up and down and back up again to complete the shape. Then, with the Convert Anchor tool, make a teardrop shape. I'm going to make this one orange, but I'm going to adjust the color a little bit and make it slightly brighter. Now I'll just copy the teardrop shape, drag it down, and then rotate it holding down the Shift key and bring it up to the point. I'll want to make them overlap a little bit to make a fatter flower. Next, I'll select both pieces I've just made, Command C and Command F, and then holding down the Shift key, I'll rotate them so that I've created a cross-leg shape. Once I've created the cross shape, I'll then select all of the elements so far. I'll Command C, Command F again, and then, holding down the Shift key, I'll rotate again. Now that we have our flower shape, I'd like to simplify it a little bit. There are several ways you can do this, but I think the easiest and fastest one is to select all of the shapes we've brought together and then use the Shape Builder tool or Shift M to blend them all together. There will be some excess pieces that aren't initially grabbed. You can try to catch them all with the Shift M tool, or you can right-click on the shape, ungroup it, and then release the compound path. Once you've released the compound path, you can drag the shape you'd like over to the side and then delete the excess. Next, we're going to create an underlay shape for the flower. We'll do this by selecting the flower, going to Object, Path, Offset Path. The dialog box for Offset Path has a preset value. You can preview it by checking the preview box. You can adjust the size of the offset shape by changing the value in the offset box. By checking and unchecking the preview box, you can see all of the changes you make. Once you are satisfied with the size of your offset, you can click OK. Now you're ready to change the color. Choose one from your palette and click on it. Now let's make the center of the flower. Choose the Circle tool and, holding down the Shift key, drag it diagonally until it's the size that you think is best for the center of your flower. Once you're satisfied, you'll want to align everything. Select all of the shapes you've just made. Then, go to the Transform panel at the top of your screen, and you can align the shapes both vertically and horizontally. I'd like to make the center of my flower a little bit larger, so I'll select the circle in the center and resize by grabbing the corner and holding down the Shift key. Now I'll need to recenter everything again, so I'll select the flower and then center both vertically and horizontally. Now I'm going to adjust the color of the outline and the center by selecting both and just clicking on a darker color. Now that I've created this element, I'm going to make the print. I'll start by selecting and grouping the element. Next, holding down the Alt and the Shift key, I'll drag the element to the side at the distance that I think the elements should be from each other in the print. Next, I'll select both, Command C, Command F, and then, holding down the Shift key, I'll rotate them, creating a cross-leg shape like we did when we were creating the flower shape. Now I'm just going to select all of these and move them away from the shirt that's above them. Now we're going to create the background. Using the Square tool, we'll create a rectangle behind the flowers. To send the rectangle to the back, select it and then hold down Command, Shift, and left bracket. This will send the rectangle behind the flowers. Next, we'll want to define our prints repeat, so we'll use the Square tool to define it. Using the Smart Guides can be particularly helpful with this action, as you'll want to define your prints repeat very exactly. Use the edges of your print elements as a guide to where your repeat starts and ends. Once you've found your repeat, remove the fill and the stroke from your box and, using the action Command Shift left bracket, send the box to the back. Now select all of your elements, your background, and your clear box and drag them into the swatch palette. And you have your print. Next you'll need a body for that print. So select the T to the left and holding down Alt and Shift, drag it over. Double-click to go into isolation mode and click with the magic wand. Click on your new swatch in the swatch palette and now your T is filled with your brand new print. Double-click on the artboard to exit isolation mode. And now you've learned how to draw a t-shirt flat and fill it in 4 different ways. Congratulations! And thanks for watching.